Let me get my fucking breath. Holy shit. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold. Bear with me. Yo, welcome to the archive. In this video, I want to talk about the new HBO Max series, diving back into the It universe. It Welcome to Derry. I just felt like I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of sucked me back into that universe and got me really excited to actually dig into like Stephen King's books and go through them and stuff. So I just feel like I want to talk about what's going on right now. Holy shit. I can't catch my breath. I'm just going to talk about the first two episodes. Saw this out right now, and then I'll go through it. Try to keep up with it weekly. If you don't know, Welcome to Derry is a new show, and it's a prequel to the It Chapter 1 movie that came out in 2017, I think. Just a background for me. It was the first horror movie I think I remember watching as a kid, the old one, and it scared the shit out of me. Thanks, Dad. But then It Chapter 1 was the first movie, I think it was the first rated R movie I went to in the theater, so that was also cool for me. So I kind of got some nostalgia attached to the franchise, but I think it's just good. I just think it's solid, so I'm going to talk about it briefly. So, like I said, this is a prequel to the It Chapter 1 movie, and it takes place 27 years before that, so I think it's in 1963-ish. It's a new group of kids, and just to start off, I think that's probably one of my favorite parts, is it's a new group of kids that we don't necessarily know about. We don't know their story. I know that some of them, Ronnie is in the book, Maddie is in the book, but I don't think these are necessarily the same characters because of the time difference between book and movie and stuff. So since it's a new group of kids that we don't know the story for, we have no idea what's going to happen to them. And by the way, I'm just going to say spoilers, big bold letters that say spoilers. It'd be technically that way, spoilers, because don't get mad at me. Anyways, just quickly introduce you to some of the kids. Maddie, I don't remember their last names, so bear with me. Maddie is the first kid that ends up getting taken by Pennywise in this, or I'm gonna call him It by It in this this show. Maybe this group of, or this batch of killings, because it comes back every 27 years. So I don't know if Maddie's the first one. Anyways, he's this kid, has a shitty home life. Kind of has a thing for another character, Lily, but gets rejected on that and ends up being the first one. He was going hitchhiking and he got abducted by this fucking creepy family. Might as well start there. That creepy family, it was cool. I have one problem with, not one, I have a couple problems, but my biggest problem in the first episode was it wasn't really scary to me. The scares didn't really do nothing. The baby didn't, besides the jump scare, it didn't do anything to me. The lampshade later did kind of freak me out, but that was probably the best thing in it, the best part of that episode. But the baby gets birthed and then starts flying all over the place. You see them driving in a circle in Derry. They can't leave, but the baby kills Maddie, and there we go. Then we meet Lily. She is a kid who not came from, but she was in Juniper Hill for a while because that's the asylum in that universe. Basically because her dad was working at a pickle plant, and she forgot a mood ring in there or some shit, like a little trinket in the thing, and he went in there and to like retrieve it, and when he was in there, gears were all messed up, so he went in to fix it, but then someone turned it back on, so he ended up getting reverse transformed. So she has some trauma with that, some pickle trauma, crazy kind of trauma to have. Other people, Teddy, he is the uncle of Stanley Uris from It Chapter 1 and part of 2, so that's cool. I kind of like the connections that characters have to other characters, so, or from the It series. So we have one of the main characters, Leroy Hanlon, is the grandfather of Mike Hanlon and father of Will Hanlon, who is Mike's dad. And then we have the chief of police is like a Bowers grandfather. So that's Henry Bowers. I feel like I'm missing one. There's even this sort of like weird fucking butcher guy that has the name Kirsch, which, if you remember, is the creepy lady that was living in Bev's house that she saw in her head. So we have a connection there. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but it'll come to me later. I think I like the amount of connection to him. It's not super in your face outside of introducing him. Let me try to keep this brief. I told myself I was going to keep this quick. So Ronnie, projectionist daughter, she's cool. He's getting framed for Maddie's murder. And then there's another kid named Phil. That's Teddy's best friend. Kind of a dickhead. I don't really like him, but he's a kid. And then we get his little sister Susie, and then Leroy is an Air Force pilot. He fought in Korea, had some traumatic brain injury, which we find out later is his amygdala was damaged, which is fear reception, I guess. So he's kind of like Daredevil, and not, I guess not really, but trying to run through this real quick. But he's basically he's a well-known military pilot. That's cool. There's this whole, let me go through that now. This whole subplot, Will gets involved. Will is Leroy's son, Mike's dad, and he gets involved, cross with Ronnie when they meet in detention. But Leroy is that Air Force pilot, and in the first episode, he gets jumped by these dudes in gas masks talking about trying to get information on the plane he flies, and he didn't give anything up. They beat him up and they left. I didn't really like that part of the episode, but it was weird and just kind of quick, and like, why did they leave? But then we figured out, second episode, it was a test. They were trying to test him, see if he was scared or if he would give up information, and he didn't. So now we learn that the government is trying to weaponize the entity of it. And we get a connection to the Stephen King universe. Dick Halloran from The Shining. Just let me be clear, I have not read The Shining, so don't really know about him, but I know from enough New Rockstars videos who Dick Halloran is. He's the dude with the shine who can like sense shit, which I think Leroy has. Yeah, he's in it. Dick Halloran is kind of like being used to find it because of his senses, and yeah, cool to see him. Even though I don't really have any connection to him, but he's cool. He's a good character in this show. He's kind of like serious, but he's still like laid back. I kind of like it. They have a funny scene where like they all get fucking blasted and then try to get off base. I feel like I'm forgetting something. There's a lot of racism. It was the 60s, and it was in a town that was not notoriously progressive. JFK was, and Leroy makes that clear. JFK got his back. Hell yeah. But the whole town's just kind of racist. But they're all just kind of shitheads anyways. Like, a lot of them just, like, kids get bullied. And they all, like, just kind of mean to everybody. They all got really, really snarky attitudes. I don't like any of these adults. Honestly, I wish it went after more adults. The kids don't be seeming to do nothing. It's really just the adults. They're all shitheads, but I think that's part of it. He's just, like, corrupting that town. Another thing, this is going to be all over the place. Maturin, the turtle, I do know about this. The big, like, gigantic universe turtle that's, like, opposite of it. There's a lot of turtle references. There's Bert the turtle, like, duck and cover, which, if you're trying to duck under a desk and a nuke drops, I don't think that desk is going to do anything. Maddie gives Lily what's it called? Turtle charm for her bracelet. So Lily sees Maddie's fingers in the pipe. I'm doing this because this is like what he was doing. His fingers were in the like bath drain, and they were all bloody. He was singing a song from a movie that he was watching, and this freaks Lily out, and they already think she's crazy. So she's just trying to keep shit on the low. She goes to tell Teddy and Phil at the standpipe, which is like kind of where they all hang out. Even though Phil and Teddy had to be paid in candy to hang out with Maddie, so they were kind of shitty. Lily tells them, like, I saw some shit, and you need to, what are we going to do about this? Teddy don't believe him until later that night. He asks his dad, like, could he theoretically, someone take him in the sewers and do bad things to him? His dad scolds him about his grandparents surviving Buchenwald, which is, like, one of the Nazi concentration camps. There was reports and a little museum where they made lampshades out of Jewish people's skin. This freaks Teddy out, and that night he has a vision where his light starts flickering, and he has a lampshade made out of Jewish people's faces that is like mouths are sewn shut, and they are screaming, and it's freaky. Probably the best part of that episode. That makes him Teddy like, hey, okay, I believe you, Lily. And they end up going to investigate. They talk to Ronnie. She wasn't really trying to like talk to him because they were trying to pin it on Hank, her dad, but she heard some stuff too, so that they were singing this Music Man song, which is the movie he was watching. So let's go watch the Music Man and see if we can see him or see get some hints, whatever. And Ronnie, her dad's a projectionist. They go to the theater and she puts on the Music Man. They're all sitting in there. Ronnie's watching it from the projection room, and like Maddie's in the movie. And he turns into like the weird creepy Pennywise face looking dude, and then his baby that he's cradling comes out, and it's like huge, and they end up yeah, these kids die. Like, all but two of them die, that we know of. There's theories that Phil didn't die because something later, but I think Phil's dead. Yeah. Lily, she survived, I think, because of the turtle. Phil got fucked up. It's kind of hard to tell who got fucked up where, but one of them got pulled up in the air and slammed against a window, ripped in half, like cut open. Yeah, it's bad. The little girl, Susie, got her arm ripped off and eaten. Or no, she got eaten. Everything else got ripped off. Ooh, man. Her and Ronnie end up escaping. And this scene is kind of the basis for episode 2. Because one, it subverted all the expectations. You thought this was your new, like, losers club, but no, it's a different group of people besides Lily and Ronnie. Yeah, it's a brutal scene, but in the next episode, they're trying to blame all this on Hank. Can't put him there at the scene that night, so they're having some trouble. Ronnie is kind of looked at like crazy because, damn, her dad killed a bunch of kids, and they're saying, like, there's no body, so he ate them and shit. Oh my god, this is so fucked. Lily kind of is having to deal with that while also, like, trying to keep her shit together because she's dealing with grief and she doesn't want to go back to Juniper Hill because apparently it's really, really bad. One thing I like about this, the intro scene in episode 2, I think it's what they're going to use for the whole series, but it's like a theme song, basically. Not really a theme song, but it's the animation of it going through a bunch of history and Derry and this and that fucking nails the vibe of this show and Derry as a whole. So great job with whoever did that. But yeah, I don't, what the fuck was I going with? Oh, and in that intro, the reason I was saying that, in that intro, there's a thing of like kid getting a lobotomy, and I'm assuming Juniper Hill. So yeah, probably not a fucking good place to go. I'd assume she doesn't want to go there. So Lily has a friend named Marge, kind of a girl that just wants to fit in, wants to be with the, like, cool girls who are the bullies or whatever, even if it means kind of making fun of Lily, which is fucked up. All this tension between her and Ronnie and all this stuff comes to, like, a peak in the cafeteria, where Lily's talking to Ronnie. Ronnie's like, did you tell them, like, that it wasn't him? Like, did you tell them what happened? And Lily basically says that she didn't tell them what actually happened. She just said that she knew it wasn't Ronnie's dad. So like, this is basically sounding like, hey, I'm just too scared to fucking tell what actually happened. She just really doesn't want to tell him about the baby because she'd end up back in Juniper Hill, because that's fucking nuts. I get her concern, but considering what happens at the end of the episode, it was futile anyways. Ronnie freaks out and is like yelling at her, yells some cuss words. She gets detention. That's where she meets Will, because Will was talking to this dude named Rich in the hallway. Another kid who I'm assuming is going to become part of the group later, has a crush on Marge. They're talking in the hallway, and Rich tells him, let's fucking go, because this kid's throwing a smoke bomb, like a stink bomb. Holy shit, what are these kids? Then Will runs into this teacher who was kind of a dick to him earlier, and then they get in trouble. He's in detention, and that's where he meets Ronnie. But in that cafeteria scene, their argument is tied in with Marge playing patty cake with the bullies, which is some weird, like, hand game, but it's like banging on the table and shit, and it like is the music for the tension that's building in Ronnie and Lily's conversation. So it's a wonderful little tension builder, I guess. I'm trying to verbalize what I feel about the show. Really like it so far. Let me say so far. That comes to a head when Lily gets questioned by Bowers, chief of police, one more time, because he's like, hey, parents are kind of getting iffy. Like, we need to figure something out, because if it's not Hank, they're going to start looking at you as the only survivor, being the only suspect. Like, she freaks out because this is obviously him trying to basically say, hey, if you don't tell us what we want to hear, you're going to go back to Juniper Hill. And yeah, dude's a shithead. I thought he was cool because, well, I didn't think he was cool. Let me say, he didn't want to pin it on Hank when they didn't have any evidence against Hank. They didn't want to pin it on him because they didn't really have any evidence on him. But the people were like pushing him to say, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to replace you as the chief. So he's trying to get the answers he wants to hear. And then he kicks some black people out of the bar, which I thought maybe he was a good man for not wanting to pin something on a man that didn't do it, until he was racist. He's talking to her and is basically 100% sure that he was not there that night. And this wording of it manipulates Lily into saying yes or no, which ends up getting her, she says no to that question, I'm assuming, because we see Hank getting taken away, which means the only level of doubt that they had was Lily saying that he wasn't there. But now that she's not 100% sure, that's enough probable cause to get him arrested. Yeah, that sucks. Ronnie's pissed. She goes to the house. She knows. What did you tell him? She's cussing. It was a heartbreaking scene. I'm about to just tell you about the scares in this episode. Definitely my favorite ones. The first one I'm going to talk about is one that probably contends for my favorite scare in anything It. And it's the scene in Ronnie's bedroom where she is. So basically, Ronnie's dad is now single because when Ronnie was born, during her birth, her mom died. And it goes on this fear by she's laying underneath her blanket because she hears Hank and her grandma arguing. And when she's under the blanket, she gets trapped. And then you see it turn red, and then it's like sealing in on her, and then it starts filling up with water, and she's just freaking out. It's like basically a womb, and she's freaking out, and then she pushes her way out of what is now a literal woman, but her bed turns into her mom, and she gets out. She's all covered in blood, and her mom is telling her about, you killed me, you tore me apart, they're gonna fry your dad, this, that, the other, freaking Ronnie out. And this was already like dope. I'm like, okay, cool, this is actually freaking me out. And then when Ronnie goes to run, she gets yanked by this umbilical cord that's attached to her now, and she's getting dragged in, and her mom is going crazy, just yapping. And you see I'm gonna just say the coochie open, and it like has teeth. You can see Pennywise's eyes in there, so they're teasing Pennywise. Ronnie's pulling away from it, but it's just yanking her in, and she almost gets pulled in before like she tears it with her teeth, runs back to the wall. Her mom like contorts so the bed gets up, and she like breaks a bunch of bones and weird shit, and then she runs towards Ronnie with the she's wearing. So there's a picture in her house that she always, Ronnie's looking at all the time, that has her in her wedding dress, and that's what she's in this scene. So her, I don't know what they call that, blows back, and her face is all sucked in, skeletonized, and she's yelling, "Come to mama," and shit, which is just some crude humor, but that's Pennywise. That's just what he does. It is gnarly, bro, and my jaw just dropped to the floor. I wasn't expecting nothing that crazy, but then after that, that's when Hank ends up going to jail after all the argument, just everything. And then Lily is going grocery shopping for her mom. When she's in there, you see the way she's moving in the store, the aisles start to kind of close her in, sort of. Not necessarily close her off, but it's turning into more like a maze. And then people start turning around and leaning in aisles, staring at her with the big smile, just creepy as fuck. And then she ends up getting completely boxed in, and all by pickles, just nothing but pickle jars. And then her fucking dad's body parts are in these pickle jars, just scattered. And this scene wasn't really scary as much as it was gross, because I don't like pickles, and pickles just are nasty to me. So this was really gross, because she gets grabbed by this pickle tentacle. It's so fucking gross. She ends up freaking out with it wrapped around, choking her, and her dad is putting his body parts back together with the pickles and it's so weird, dude. The results of that, because she has a meltdown in public, she ends up back at Juniper Hill anyway. So not only did she snitch on Ronnie's dad and get him locked away, possibly killed, she ended up in Juniper Hill anyways. So I think it got the last laugh on that one. That's where that episode ends, is with her going back to Juniper Hill, and she pulls up. It's all in black and white almost, and or I can't really remember if it's in black and white. I think it was. In my head it is. But anyways, they're the people that are taking her in are just smiling, which just makes me think that it has some sort of control on that. Let me just go through my likes and dislikes real quick. Something I liked. All the young actors are really good in this, especially Lily and Ronnie, along with, I think, Will does a pretty solid job in this as well. They're all really good, and you can really feel the emotion through them and see how tormented they are by this fucking creature. So yeah, shout out them. Hopefully they get more stuff in the future. I like the vibe that they made Derry feel. It's always a good foundation for the It series being in Derry. And it's they nailed the vibe. They nailed it with the intro, all that. they nailed it with just even the people that Leroy's wife Charlotte runs into. They're all just weird, even if they're not necessarily outright racist or outright creepy. They're just weird. I like killing off all the main kids in the first episode, except two of them. It kind of threw me off, and I was like, "Oh man!" So we're getting a new cast because they put all those kids are on the promotion. Now, I will say I didn't really watch much promotion. I think I watched the teaser when it first came out, but I didn't look at much. I saw the poster and like, oh, those kids are on there. Cool, that's the new group. So shocked me when that happened. I really like Leroy. I haven't talked about him much because he's kind of more of a side character right now. He is part of the main story, but he is kind of just, I feel like, the tie-in to get the military in with the kids. But he's pretty good. I like him just as a character. He has a scene where you can see his expertise because there's a Soviet issued gun that he made out when that dude was, the guys in the gas mask were jumping him. And he was like, that dude reloaded it like that. And it's apparently a gun that's really hard to reload, really hard to cock, all that stuff. And they tried to blame it on this guy Masters, who, racist dude, didn't want to salute Leroy. And this ended up like kind of backfiring because Leroy went with that gun with a loaded thing, taunted Masters until it tempted him to grab the gun, try to load it. Couldn't get it loaded, couldn't get it cocked. So it's not him, couldn't have been him. So he goes and confronts him, his general, who ends up telling him this, that, and the other. It was a test. Let me show you what we're looking at. And basically, this is where we learn about the military trying to weaponize it. That's one of my dislikes. I don't like that idea. I think it's almost more hopeless that the kids know about it, but the adults aren't very aware of it, besides certain ones and the losers when they come back. I feel it just feels more hopeless for them. I guess maybe I'm just fucking miserable, but I like when they kind of feel hopeless or they gotta just completely wipe that dude out. It also brings up questions because where the fuck was the military in either of the It movies? And what did they do when it went dormant for 27 years? I know it's probably going to get explained in this at some point because we're to the point where we're almost at the Cuban Missile Crisis in that timeline. So that's probably going to have some military repercussions. So we'll see. One thing I like, they solemnly use Pennywise. Okay, so editing me here, I think I meant the word seldomly, but I say solemnly. Solemn? Yeah, I say that. So ignore when I say solemnly and think I said seldomly. So my fault. He's has some hints in the intro and like you see his eyes a couple times, but they're being really like low key about Pennywise, and I like it. They could have easily, I mean, I know he's gonna be expensive to use, and Bill Skarsgård's so good, it's kind of like, damn, you should use him anyways. But I think solemnly using him, if that's the right word, probably isn't, is better than throwing him in every episode. I know he's going to be in the later episodes, and I think it'll probably work better because he's building up to it. But I like the diversity of it in this movie. In the show. He's taking over more people. He's doing more weird shit with weird demon baby and the weird pickle man and the lampshade face and the fucking blood bag mom lady. Hey, if they keep this up where they keep doing these things that just surprise me, this is going to be a really good show. So, double-sided coin of the Stephen King connection is if you don't really know about him, it kind of seems like, okay, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here. With the Dick Halloran connection, there's a Shawshank, like, bus, which I haven't watched Shawshank Redemption, but I know what it is. I know there's some possible connections to his other stories. I think it could bog down the show. I'm not saying it necessarily has yet, but I feel like if they get too deep into the connections of other books, like this is the most mainstream Stephen King thing. I feel like if you start tying it in with like The Mist and The Stand and fucking all this other shit, you might end up bogging it down to where like, okay, we're kind of losing the focus on it and Derry. But I also think if they do it right, they could make a cool little universe and like do some cool stuff. I don't really know what else to say about that. Okay, I think that's all I've had to say about it. Welcome to Derry. Come back next week, I guess. I think next Sunday they air episode 3. Haven't watched the trailer for that or anything, so I'm excited. But the way it ended, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm reading Salem's Lot. This is going to be on my list next. I haven't read this, but this fucking Bible of a book just came today, and we're gonna tap into this eventually. It might take me 3 years to read, but I'm going to get into it eventually. But yeah, so tap into the channel next week. I might have another video this week, maybe not. I don't know. But thanks for watching, and don't get grabbed by any clowns, and don't go in near any sewer drains, or don't have any pickles. Thanks. Peace.